hello. How's it going?
Howdy, howdy.
I believe I've successfully unmuted myself, which would make 2 times in a row. So I'm kind of proud
Let,
of that.
let's see. Chat, tell us if you can hear us.
Success, I believe. Um, Anyways, this is Your Brand, Your Business, a show where we talk about the business side of streaming. And today we're going to be talking about conference prep, or as I wrote it, conventions, because I I always never know which is better. Do you call it when you say you're going to a con? Are you saying conference or convention? Because for my professional life, it's always conference, but for
I
streaming
say,
life, it's always conventions. I feel like
I'm gonna whisper it because apparently I'm like super loud. But that's what
you
everybody in
always
chat
are.
say. Okay, okay. So, I always say cons. I don't really say conference or convention. I just say con because I'll mess it up half the time, unless it's Magfest, which case I'll just say Magfest
It's a fest.
because it's its own thing. It's very festy. Um, but that's also my favorite one to go to, quite frankly.
Really? I mean, DC in January. Ugh.
Yeah, well,
I'm already complaining about Boston in February. So,
it's so much fun.
all right. Anyways,
It's yeah.
we should probably say who we are. I'm Galen Herbsley Cortina. I'm a financial planner who works with streamers, and because of that, goes to a whole bunch of conventions. Because hey, that's where you find streamers. Who are you?
My name's Noah Downs. I'm a lawyer, but I'm a cool lawyer. So, what does that mean? I work at the law firm of Morrison Rothman LLP. I have a lot of fun helping streamers, indie devs, all sorts of folks. A lot of people actually get all their legal setup, and I enjoy being a video game lawyer. I would say video game attorney, but then my boss Ryan Morrison, who is video game attorney, would get really upset at me for that.
Is there a meaningful difference between lawyer and attorney?
Not really.
Okay, I
Not
didn't think
really.
so, but you never
It,
know. Are you a solicitor?
I'm definitely not a solicitor. Now, if I go to England, I'm a solicitor, but in the United States, that has a completely different connotation, and I'm not about it.
So, like we said, anyways, today we wanted to talk a bit about preparing for conventions because,
Mhm.
oh my God, there are a lot of them now. Oh,
Yeah. So, like, which ones are you going to this year?
oh man, I had my list written out easier. So I went to PAX South.
Hmm.
I'm going to PAX East. I don't know whether does a Dota major count as a convention because I am going
Yeah,
to a
you might
Dota
as well.
major. The St. Jude Play Live Summit,
Mm.
E3, PAX West, TwitchCon, and then a couple for me that are like financial planning industry ones. Because
Oh,
I
cool.
got to do my own education, not just go and talk to streamers. But what about
I'm
you?
going. Well, I've already been to Magfest. I'm gearing up for PAX East in a couple of weeks, so I'll see you there. And then after that, it's St. Jude Summit. That's not really a con. That's
Yeah.
more of a prep for charity because St. Jude's amazing. Um, and hashtag not sponsored. And then TwitchCon EU, which is going to be a blast. E3, probably PAX West, probably TwitchCon. For wherever the firm wants me to go, I'll be there talking to people because that's what I like to do. I really enjoy just going and talking to people. Now, in the past this year I did not go to PAX South, um, which was unusual for me. I like going to PAX South. I have a lot of friends there,
That's where
but
we met, I think.
I think that's where we officially met.
Yeah. Like in
And
person. I mean, yeah.
yeah, and thank goodness for that. But the I didn't go this year just because it was so close to Magfest, and I prioritized Magfest. I didn't want to get exhausted.
Plus, you knew like Loco would be there, Bloody would be there. It'd be tough.
Right? Yeah, I knew that my friends would be there, and because I'm an antisocial person, I chose not to go. And Loco specifically said, "Noah, I really am looking forward to seeing you," and I said, "Loco, I am really looking forward to disappointing you yet again."
So, before we talk about preparing for conventions, I think we should talk a bit about why you would go to one in the first place.
Mhm.
And we have our reasons, which might be slightly different for the reasons for someone who's a broadcaster. But why don't you give us a bit of background, Noah, on why you go to conventions?
Yeah, so I go to conventions. The primary reason is not really necessarily in a professional capacity. It's so that I can meet more people in the industry, and that helps me both personally and professionally. And as Rainey says in chat, I go for the swag.
Yeah,
That's not true unless you're a close friend, in which case that is absolutely true. Um,
you're not. You're a kind of a pin guy.
I am a massive pin guy. In fact, I just got a couple of new pins today. So, um, but anyway, so I go to conventions primarily to meet people, and then if that leads to business, that's wonderful. But I never go to conventions like to do a hard sell or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
The way I see it is, it's an opportunity to mingle. It's an opportunity to keep your name out there. Because what's interesting is that in this industry, it is super. It is super quick to fall behind. And so the way I see it, I go to conventions to make sure that people know who I am, because I'm not on stream all day. It could be that people forget me because I'm a very forgettable person, as you can tell. So, but yeah, that's why I go. And then, I set up meetings while I'm there. I
Mm-hmm.
set up networking, etc. So what about you?
I mean, similar reasons. For me, it's mostly to get to meet people, refresh connections. I do. There's definitely the fan side of it's the gaming
Mm-hmm.
industry. There are things that are really fun to go see.
Yeah.
There's for sure that piece of it. But it really is. It's a chance to get to talk to people. So I explain this. I've explained this a couple times to people in the financial planning industry who work with different types of clients who do not travel like I do.
Right.
And when I explain to them, the thing that I say is streaming and esports both are, and YouTube and sort of general content creation around gaming are very uh, geographically dispersed. Is a very geographically dispersed industry. It's not. There are concentrations, right?
Right.
Austin, Seattle, Chicago, L.A. Sometimes the
Weirdly,
Bay
Richmond.
Area. Yes, Noah's working on making Richmond one.
Yeah.
There are, while there are places that are sort of hubs for it, it's you don't have to be near one to be a successful streamer. Some
Mm-hmm.
of the very biggest streamers live in places that are considered somewhat of the middle of nowhere, and actually, it might even be easier to get your streaming career started if you're living in the middle of nowhere because it's so much cheaper to live there than it is in a lot
Yeah.
of those cities I
You
listed.
have more runway when it comes to that
Exactly.
stuff.
So because of how dispersed geographically everyone is, the chance to meet in person is very valuable because even streamers are inherently social beings.
What crazy?
They may err further down the social scale than you or I, on average, but even streamers are social beings. They love seeing each other, giving a hug, saying hi. Um, and just the conferences are super important for that. It's also
Yeah.
just it's the kind of place where you get um the Kevin Bacon effect to its fullest extent,
Oh yeah, no. You go
right?
up there, you'll see people, and you'll say, "Wait, how do you know so and so?" Oh, they're my client, and they say,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh my goodness, I've known this person since I was in fourth grade." I'm like, "That's crazy," that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I think that we've got a lot. Uh, I think that we've got a lot to talk about today, and hopefully one of the things, and I want to kind of give an overview for everybody too. Um, is what you'll be getting out of conventions, why it's worth going to, and what you can expect when you do that kind of thing. So, um, I think today we're going to go over some of the big conventions. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
For streaming and for gaming in general. Then we're going to go through how you prep for them, how you handle on the floor meetings, such as cold approaches and warm approaches, off the floor meetings, dealing with parties and gatherings, and also how to properly do introductions and how not to be weird. Um,
How not to be weird is a really really big thing.
Super important. Yeah.
Like not to say that people are weird, just if you're used to just talking to a camera all day, it
Mm-hmm.
gets a little different talking in person, and that first
Human
impression
interaction.
can stick with you.
Yeah. So let's go over it a little bit then. So let's talk about PAX in general,
Mm-hmm.
because I think you can kind of talk about PAX as a whole and kind of lump it in. Um, because PAX,
I like
what's
Reni's breakdown.
how to be good awkward, not call the police awkward. Thank you, Rini. Um, that's a good mod. And so but so I think PAX in general is really good if you want to get a generalized experience. So
And
call it
there are
your
4 U.S. PAXs, right? South,
right,
East, West, and Unplugged, and then there's an
right,
Australia and a
right. There's
Dev. I guess Dev
PAX
is
Dev.
yeah. Anyways,
I don't go to PAX Dev.
me neither.
That's that dark area. No, I'm kidding. I would love to go there, but I just haven't yet. But my first experience was actually PAX East, and I loved PAX East because of the layout of it. It's really open layout. You can walk straight up and down, see everything on the floor, and there's a lot going on. Um, And so I had no idea what to expect, and I was running around like a kid in a candy store when I saw it. And so actually, I just realized as I'm saying this, I have a photo from my first PAX
Ooh.
right here. I'll show it for everybody. So that
I don't
is
think I
you
have
can
many
see
photos except they're on my phone.
McLaffy Taffy, Dead Pine, Made Monster, and me standing awkwardly in the corner
Nice.
at the Steel Series culling booth.
Very nice.
Um, but and so the that PAX was really good. I met a lot of people because I ran around and just said hello to everyone, and I now know that that's not the way to do it. But
That's not. Most people shouldn't do it that way. You can probably get away with it because you're like a big puppy.
I am,
But
yeah,
so people are like, "Oh, it's Noah." But for most people that would be draining and probably not effective.
yeah. So that was PAX East, and that was my first experience. It was big and open, but PAX West is very different, and you've been to PAX West, so why don't you talk about that?
PAX West is shoved into a couple buildings and is in Seattle, which is super expensive. Not that Boston's cheap,
Right,
but PAX West, you're doing a lot more shuffling from place to place. I feel like when you're at West, you have to
right,
like, is it in this wing or that wing, and it's kind of harder. I felt like to map an effective route around the convention. Like you said, Boston was East was pretty open. South is pretty
right.
small, so it's pretty open. Um, West was kind of that's the one where I felt the most crowded.
Yeah,
And now that Twitch isn't really maintaining booths at PAXs, there's also not really a convenient space to meet up with people in the convention that I found.
I'll say Mixers tried to take over that space, but their last PAX West booth was very small.
Well, and
And so it's
isn't PAX
difficult.
in general moving away from having the closed off spaces? Like, because Twitch had the
Yeah,
partner lounge, which was amazing for meeting people because it just
yeah,
made life easier.
yeah. And so they're moving away from spaces that are not open to the general public.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but in general, you can find a place to meet up with people. And so, like at West, usually for me, that's always been the Discord booth
Mm-hmm.
because it's very central.
Yep.
And at East, yeah, I guess it's also the Discord booth. Discord in general is very inclusive.
Discord's good. Facebook had a huge one last year.
Yeah, Facebook had a huge one, but it was didn't really have a good meeting space there, but it
That's true.
was very central. So, but yeah, so I think that PAX has its place of giving like a generalized overview of gaming and whatnot.
And PAX is
It's
good for meeting devs. PAX is
yeah,
really good for meeting devs. Like if you have a company that you work with a lot and you want to make closer in-person connections, if they're going to be there, well, you can see whether or not they're going to be one of the vendors who actually has a booth that's going to be on the floor. But also, oftentimes
right,
the devs will have, representatives there even if they don't have a booth. Like Adult Swim didn't have a booth at South, but Dan was still there, so I got to hang out with
right.
him. Right.
Yeah,
Um,
and there's also like generalized, more generalized, I'd say events and whatnot as well.
yeah, I guess I
Um,
said devs, but there's also peripherals and PC companies and all that kind of stuff who are at these.
right, and there's tabletop too.
And there's tabletop, a lot of tabletop.
So PAX is really a good if you want to get a sense of what a convention is and kind of dip your toes. PAX is a really great place to
Yeah,
go. That said, personally, I would say PAX South is not that because recently, in my opinion,
it's
it's
small.
it's become much smaller. It's much more of a go and hang out with your friends kind of thing.
Yes, very
Um,
much so.
yeah, and so that's my regret is that I didn't go because I didn't get to see my friends, not that I didn't go because I didn't get to get work done.
Yeah.
So
It's if this had been my first PAX South, I don't know that I would be going back, essentially. Um,
yeah,
and it's also I think it's also just partially getting cannibalized by East because it got moved forward so much this year. Because East is normally
yeah.
like end of March, early April, and this year it's end of February, which is
And you can
nuts.
kind of see where, and that might even be Penny Arcade Expo, like Repop realizing that South is kind of getting smaller. So they're
Hmm.
moving East up to kind of fill that slot and
Although
get,
going to South the entire trip because it's in San Antonio in January is like cheaper than my hotel for
oh my
East,
gosh,
basically.
that's wild.
I
Well,
mean, if I weren't to split the hotel, but like Boston and
yeah,
Seattle, if you were to get a hotel room to yourself, that probably
Hmm.
costs more than the entirety of going to South, unless you're coming from somewhere where you need 3 connections.
Well, and then you also, so I think what that's going to happen is Pac South is eventually going to be no more, unfortunately.
Maybe.
And then I think that they're going to move east up to about where it is. They're going to move west up. Yeah, Boston in February is going to be a lot. I'm bringing my overcoat. But then I think they're going to move west so it's further away from TwitchCon, because
Mm-hmm.
TwitchCon has been destroying West attendance lately in terms of talent attending.
Yeah.
Attending, even though it's in Seattle, it should be a natural draw. TwitchCon's also on the West Coast, so let's talk about TwitchCon and what that's useful for.
TwitchCon's
Um,
great for communities. I mean,
yeah,
if you have a community, it has a lot of the things that PAX has. It has other streamers there. It has industry folks there. It has devs and peripherals and all that kind of stuff. It's
right.
good for those things. But what it's super good for, in my opinion, is communities. If you have people there that you either your community or communities that you are a part of, it is phenomenal for those. I think that park in front of TwitchCon had community meetups going on basically 24/7 the
Yeah.
entirety of the con, right?
So for the next few years, last year TwitchCon was in San Diego. It's going to be in San Diego again,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's going to be in San Diego at least one more year after that.
That wouldn't
And
surprise
so,
me.
that's confirmed. And so what that means is that,
And this is TwitchCon NA, obviously, since we're saying
yeah,
San
NA.
Diego.
And so what that means is that you're gonna see people that are much more used to the space. I love TwitchCon because it's really good for communities, but also for business. You and I have had a pretty decent panel presence at TwitchCon. We've been
The
lucky.
PAX has never won our panels. I don't know why. Makes me
Yeah,
sad.
PAX East. I've never been on a panel at PAX East. I don't get it. I think they hate lawyers, literally. And so, but TwitchCon is much better in terms of education and being very focused on streaming
Mm-hmm.
on Twitch.
Yeah, PAX is pretty generalized gaming, and
Yeah,
there's no MixerCon yet. South is kind of
yeah,
MixerCon.
yeah, exactly. And so, generalized gaming at PAX, but community specific streaming focuses. You'll see a lot of streamers. You'll see almost every streamer. All the big names, they'll go to TwitchCon.
The only ones
Um,
who don't are the ones who are paranoid about Twitch announcing something like Twitch Prime again while they're not streaming.
yeah, yeah, which didn't really have that much of an effect. Like, it's just paranoia. But so Twitch is where you go to bleed purple and meet your favorite streamers and whatnot. So that's got its own place. Now you get TwitchCon EU, which I am going to for the first time this year, so I don't know what to expect.
I'm not going to
Um,
it.
yeah, yeah, it's because you're kind of a
I'm
loser.
U.S. based. I
Yeah,
mean, like my
yeah,
business is U.S. based. My investing and
right.
tax knowledge is U.S. based, and would be not not useless to international creators, but certainly a lot less useful. My value proposition would be way lower, and just the cost versus benefit. I
Right.
would
Yeah. For
love to
me,
go for fun, but
yeah. Well, I mean, you could. And I'm going to be
no, I
pounding the
could
pavement
not.
pretty hard. Yeah.
Not this
You're
year.
about to have a home, so
Yeah.
the but I would say that I'm going to figure out what it's about, and I think that I'll get some leads. But basically, what I'm going there for is to see whether it's a good business proposition. So I can't offer much about that right now.
Mm-hmm. One that we didn't touch on in our listing because neither of us is planning on going to it is South by Southwest, which is trying to expand a lot into gaming. They
Or
had
GDC.
oh, that's well, I guess yeah, that's true. Do you think GDC is something for streamers? Really?
Not really, unless you want to meet devs, and
I
even
was
then
the
it's
GDC being
so
game
dev focused.
developers conference convention, whatever, and it's in
Yeah.
San Francisco. It's so expensive.
Although one con that's really trying to get more into streaming in general is E3. You saw
Yeah,
such a huge
yeah.
focus on content creation at E3 last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see what's going to come up more, because Twitch was a sponsor. There was a TikTok booth. There was everything at E3, and I really enjoyed it. But I was also, but at the same token, like kind of taking in
Oh, that's
E3.
the one I missed. Thank you, Ernest. That was nagging at the back of my head. I knew I was missing one. Yes, I am going to Gaming Community Expo, not Guardian Con Extreme, but
Yeah,
GCX.
GCX is also incredible.
This will be my
Shout out
first
to
time going.
Oh yeah, I'm about to show
Last
you. I'm going to show you around
year,
because I've been once.
last year, I think it was at the same time that we were going to a wedding.
Oh really?
Yeah. No, I
Well,
last time I didn't go not because I decided it wasn't worth it because I think I was literally like at or in a wedding at the same time.
yeah, and Ernest is going to that one as well. So our for everyone who's watching that doesn't know us, Ernest is our co-host. He is also going to Guardian Con Extreme, GCX.
He is
Um,
also friggin' like scared if he sees his shadow go out kind of guy. So getting him to a convention is a big deal.
He's
We're
very
happy.
pale.
That's
Sorry.
not where I was going with it. Ugh. But
So
yeah, South. It's hard to say it to your face when you don't go out. South by Southwest, moving into gaming, but it's that whole big cultural experience, just everything. So if you're in the area, very different.
that's
GDC probably not for streamers, like we said. So
but Guardian Con is great for streamers, I would say,
again,
especially
they're
if you
trying
want to
to
tie into
rebrand
charity.
it.
Yeah. So they are. It was Guardian Con. Now it's GCX Gaming Community Expo. It's great for streamers, and so I would definitely recommend going. It's been one of my favorite things I've ever been to.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to throw in MagFest for an honorary mention, not because it's great for streamers, but just because it's my favorite con, and I absolutely love it.
Fair enough.
So,
Did we miss any? We talked a bit about E3, which used to be mostly industry and devs, but is definitely expanding much more into
yeah.
like they're having a lot of people who are streamers come in to host things, and it's also really good for making dev connections, which can be a really valuable thing.
Right. Exactly. We got a good question there, Agromagnet. Are you going to explain how and if you can make cons a business expense? We'll touch on that later on. Galen, would you grab that for our questions later? Cool. So let's talk about prep a little bit. I would say one of the most useful things for a con is to have a plan. I'm not saying I do, but I try to. And so when I first started going to cons, I didn't realize how useful business cards were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I started handing out business cards like crazy at cons, and I ran out my first day at my first PAX.
Nice.
Which was a mistake. So now I bring a box of them, because the thing is, you're going to meet people so quickly, so rapidly, that you're just going to want to hand out the card. Now you don't lead with the card by any stretch of the imagination. We'll talk about that later.
If someone's walking around just handing out cards, no one keeps those, remembers them, values them.
Those are what we call shills. And so, but definitely have cards, because there's no way that you're going to remember everything. And it's so useful to have people's information just ready at hand.
I definitely agree. And there are a couple of things that you should put on a business card. We need just linked a guide to it, but we can touch on the basics. You should have your name, either your actual name or your handle, depending on if it's public or not.
Crazy.
You should have the social media that people can find you on. You should have the link to your stream if you're a streamer. And what I've seen that I really, really like that some people do is one of two things. One is sometimes they'll put an actual QR code on there that has a condensed version of some of those, some of that information. Or, and a friend of mine, Zenagami, does a really good job of this. He just has a blank space on the back designed for notes. Like it'll be like a white box
awesome.
that you can put notes on, because anytime you're like getting a card and you want to remember something about that person, you can write it there so that you know when you're doing follow-up. Grid, you remember someone saying they end up throwing away people's business cards? Some people do that. Not everyone. Most don't, in fact, I'd say. And if it's someone who universally throws away everyone's card, they're missing some business opportunities, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say so too. Now, what I do is I definitely sort cards by this is a priority follow-up. This is somebody that I want to learn more about, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I would definitely have your business cards and be ready. That said, as you're also prepping for cons, the thing is, I would also recommend is treat it like an interview. Everything you're going into is a 5-second interview, and you need to be ready. So you need to do your research.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if you want to talk to Discord about Discord partnership or something, you need to know who you need to talk to, what their booth's going to look like, and where they're going to be on the floor. I know PAX and everybody, they all released their exhibit.
They just released the East exhibitor stuff last week, I think.
Yeah, and I've already gone through it. I know where everything is, and I know who I'm going to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is key. Especially, it helps you organize, especially figure out what days you're doing things.
Yeah, that's actually, we should touch on that. These conventions are multiple days. Don't try and blow your whole load day one, just because you'll be exhausted and you won't get as much meaningful stuff out of it.
Yeah, what I like to do is I like to walk the whole floor on day one.
Yeah, see everything.
and not engage in everything day one.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way I have a framework for day two, and I can go around and do my meetings then.
Yep. Yeah, I tend to agree.
Also, as you're going, there's Taffy. Hi, Taffy. Taffy actually brought me to my first channel. Taffy, I was showing them this picture of you when you were hairless. And so, anyways, but when you're leading up to cons as well, I would check out, I would definitely consider preparing in terms of not just research, but also DMing, emailing, and setting up meetings.
Mm-hmm. The vendors are there to do business.
Right.
Other streamers maybe not as much, right? Like other streamers who are there might not be looking for collaborations or anything like that, but the vendors who are there to do business in some form or another, even if it's just to initiate meeting someone so that they can follow up for it. So
Right.
yeah, be like be on top of that, and because
Prepare that.
their schedules will fill up too.
Yeah, and so that's the thing is they fill up, and so Fried Mice said it exactly right. Treat everything like an elevator interview. You have 30 seconds to make an impression, and at the end of it, give your info.
Mm-hmm.
If you have your card, that saves you so much time instead of saying, "Hey, let me follow you on Twitter right now."
Although if you
Then,
are going to do that, and if it's someone you really want to follow up with, use the QR code function on Twitter. So if you go to your
exactly.
profile on Twitter, and you know, or well,
Print
I can just literally do it from pulling from the side. There's a little QR code thing in the bottom, and then you can snap a picture and follow, and that works.
That's so smart.
That's really good for. I'm meeting someone at a really loud event, and we've both been drinking, and then it's just like, boom, just do this instead of having to try and type in Galen Herbstick Cortina, because that's
So
really hard to type when you are not fully in control of your faculties.
we're kind of going a good segue into on-floor meetings. Now that we're talking about how to approach the next days.
Oh, not
So
drinking.
yeah, well, yeah, don't drink before you go on the floor
Yeah.
unless you're done working. Once you start drinking, you're done working. That's my opinion.
Great.
Um,
It's not a
um,
QR code scanner. It's literally native to the Twitter app. You just take a photo of it and it does it.
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, so there's two ways you can take care of on floor meetings, assuming that you um, uh, have not set up the meeting beforehand. There's the warm approach and the cold approach. Your warm is hard to get. You're going to know somebody there. You're going to walk up and say, "Hey, good to see you." This is normally what I do on day one is I find the people that I know, figure out what booths they're at, and then I say, "This is going to be my home booth for the next 4 days." And so whether that's the Facebook booth, the Discord booth, the Twitch booth, the Mixer booth, that's where I'm going to be. And will always have a friend there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I use that as a home base. What do you think about that strategy?
I think that's pretty good, and I think that's maybe not necessarily where you would start if you're just learning to go to conventions, if you're prepping to go to your first even few. But it's a good one if you do have friends in the industry who might be manning those booths. Just make sure that you're not taking up too much of their space and time because they paid really good money for it and they have to get there super early to get stuff set up. So you want to make sure that you're not a pain on them.
Yeah, and you also want to be cognizant of what's going on. So like there's somebody waiting to talk to your friend, keep an eye out around you just so you know what's going on, and don't stand directly in front of their sign. If somebody walks up and you just say, "Hey, I'll take a second, see you in a little bit," let them do their business.
Yep.
But that can also be used to strengthen your relationships with people.
Yeah. So that's a good way to find your home base, and it's a good way to find too, like, it's pretty common if I'm scheduling to meet up with someone, I say let's meet at X booth just because it's a defined landmark. So you can, even if it's not their booth, like they are a streamer who's wandering around or something like that. It's a good way to have a landmark that you can use so that you're not just saying like, "Oh, I'm on the floor. Where are you?" Because neither of you has reception and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's another good thing. You will never have service on the floor. So, but yeah, you were going towards I think probably the cold approach if I'm following our outline.
Yeah, go for it. I'm not one who does. So here's one thing I'll say about this. I don't really work with many like devs in the industry. I'm working much more with individuals and usually individual content creators. So Noah, for you, what is your strategy for if it's a cold approach? If it's someone that you don't have a pre-existing relationship or contact with?
Yeah. And so if say I want to walk up to a completely new game that I want to represent or something or do work with, and I've never talked to them before, I'll go up. Sometimes I'll interact with their assets. I'll play the game a little bit. I'll let them do the demo for me because then they're in the part where they're trying to sell to me. That's good. I'll engage with them, and then afterwards I'll say, hey, this is great. I really enjoyed this. And I'll obviously never do this for something you're not interested in, because I
Don't
always
waste
go to
people's
stuff.
time.
Yeah, don't waste people's time. I'm genuinely interested in every game that I go to, because I like representing good games. And so, but that said, take the time, listen to them, and then say, that's awesome. I'm here because I'm a gamer, but I'm also a lawyer. I'm also a financial planner. And this is what I do. I'd love to learn more about what y'all do and follow up after the con. I know you got a lot of things going on here. Here's my card. Um, and then, sometimes they invite you to stay and talk more, which is great because they're interested. Sometimes they're trying to get to the next demo. You let them do that. But when you're going for that cold approach, you always find something about them to compliment that you find interesting and have that interest be genuine.
And
if you can't find a genuine interest, don't do it.
a part of that too, I think, is just because most deals, most business, they don't get inked, shaken upon, whatever it is, at the con.
Right.
Right? It's the follow up. This is the initial contact. This is starting to form relationships. If you're trying to push to ink something there, they probably don't have their people who do that unless this is something that you've been planning a bunch beforehand.
Yeah. I think the most cringy cold intro I've ever done was I walked up to a booth and I literally said, there was no opportunity to like show an interest in something, but I've been told that I had to talk to them, not by my firm, by another person. And so I said, hey, my name's Noah. I'm a lawyer. I'm super interested in talking to you guys because of X, X, and X. Can I have a follow-up? And what that actually ended up getting, I got a really cool pin out of it and a hat, because I'm a swag guy. And then we actually had a really good follow-up later on. So I think part of the stigma of a cold approach is that you're afraid of rejection. And these people at cons are literally seeing thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. And unless you just literally trip on your shoelaces, fall on your face, and start bleeding all over their floor, they're not going to remember you. You can do the tripping and falling, and they won't remember you. Now, the bleeding, they'll remember you. Maybe. And so never be afraid just to open up and follow people, because what they say about first impressions, you will have 6 first impressions if all your first impressions are at cons.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There are people who've come up and said hi to me who I met once before, and it takes a bit before I connect where I saw them before. Not because I didn't think they were interesting, or not because I didn't care about them as a person or something, but just because you meet so many people. And there are people who I maybe haven't met before in person ever, but I've been interacting with on Twitter or on Twitch or something like that, where it ends up being a very warm first time meeting because of that pre-existing, if virtual, relationship.
Right. Exactly.
What do you do if you're introverted?
That's a hard question.
Related to what? Like related to going up to talk to vendors at booths?
So yeah, I think that's what Grid is asking, is what do you do if you're an introvert? How do you approach that? I struggle with that because I've always been a fairly extroverted person. But Galen, do you consider yourself an introvert? Yeah, I would say the common advice there, and hopefully I'm not saying anything incorrect here, would be find something in common, think about it, have a plan, because the more structure you have, the less likely you are to just flub. If you have a plan, if you know how you want it to go, you get in and out quickly, 20-minute adventure, and then that was a Rick and Morty reference, Galen.
I know.
Yeah, and then that'll give you something to fall on to.
Well, an introversion doesn't mean you're bad at being social or socializing. It just
Right.
means it's exhausting for you. So plan or not, exhausting is over exaggerating, but it can be draining. So plan your day accordingly too. Maybe you just you aren't spending the whole day doing that, or maybe you're bookending your day, and in the middle you go back to your hotel and take a nap or whatever it is that recharges you, right? Like,
yeah, don't overextend yourself.
that'd be what I'd say. I mean, there have been plenty of cons where I've taken a break in the middle of the day and literally napped.
Yeah.
And part of the reason for that is because, at least for me, a lot of the after events where there's more direct socialization are more productive. I am well served by allocating my time like that, by sleeping when I can and being available for the events that actually are more um, productive.
Yeah, and so that goes into your prep, and that's a really good point. Is get your rest. Also, make sure you're fueling yourself properly. All those healthy eating tips that you'll hear somewhere else. Um,
Yeah, PAXs have quiet rooms for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
that's Noah makes a great point though. It's super easy to forget to drink water, forget to eat, all those kinds of things when you're at a con because there doesn't tend to be much stuff at the convention. And if there is, it's either crap or caffeine. Um, so not the streaming platform, but like caffeinated beverages.
you just threw shade, and I'm proud of you.
So make sure that you're taking care of those things because you'll also be someone who probably doesn't get anything productive done if you're overwired or completely exhausted, right? If you're not
Right.
showing some interest because you're so tired because you're out so late the night before, you're
It's not going to work out.
not gonna work out. Yeah. What do you do
So
if you have a connection with the vendor that you're approaching, the booth, the person that you're going to be talking to? How does that change how you approach things?
yeah, if I've got the connection, I walk up, and if I don't see the person, I feel very comfortable saying, "Hey, I'm looking for Chris" or something like that. If I and so they, I'll figure out when they're going to be there, etc. And I feel much more comfortable being on the booth because I feel like I belong there.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't know what I'm doing, I'm always worried that I'm standing in the middle of traffic or something.
Right.
My dad is in chat and he just texted me and said, "Tell them about this one story." So I will. Um, Say hello to Fried Mice in chat. That's my father. And so, but there was a local thing going on here, and there was a bunch of football players that I wanted to meet, Redskins. And so I was super nervous about going down and meeting them because I was running a fantasy football podcast at the time. I have a long and storied history. Don't ask about it. And so I was going down there to interview them, super nervous, and I kept calling my dad and saying, "What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?" And so I finally just said, "Screw it. I'm going to go up there and do it." I didn't know any of them. Like, we're talking like Vernon Davis. And so walked up and just started saying hello. And getting over that initial first talk was the best thing. And then once I did that, I felt much more comfortable. People saw me talking and not being a creep, and being cognizant of other
You're not
people's
just hanging
time.
around the edges.
Yeah, yeah, and not hanging around, but diving in.
You're not
Um,
on a convention floor. You're not going to get uninterrupted one-on-one time.
right.
So don't be the
Try for it.
person waiting creepily around the edges for your opportunity to get that because it won't come. And all that'll happen is people will be like, who's that person?
Yeah, if you cannot talk to the person you want to talk to after, say, even 3 minutes, walk in, check it out, wave, wait a second. If it doesn't work out, come back later. So, you want to talk about off-floor meetings?
Yeah. So we've been talking so far about on the floor meetings, meaning you're at the convention, you're in the hall where all of the vendors are and stuff like that, which can be packed, smell bad, loud, crowded. I'm re-emphasizing crowded, and just low. Uh, I'm trying to think. Sometimes low utility, depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish.
Difficult environment to meet in.
Yeah, and different a difficult environment to meaningfully meet in. So for
Hmm.
off the floor meetings, those are first of all generally things that you have scheduled ahead of time. It is
Right.
possible to run into someone and walk to have an off the floor meeting, but that is much rarer. Those are things you want to schedule ahead of time. What I'd say is there's a couple things that you'd want to do. The prep's the same, except for that because you've planned it ahead of time, it's warm, right? Not completely cold. Um, so there's a couple things. First is if there's someone that you want to have an off the floor meeting with, you should reach out to them and say, "Hey, I am, X person who does Y thing and think we should meet for Z reason. Are you interested?" Basically. And if they
Right.
are, then work to schedule something off the floor. Um, Usually that'll be somewhere near enough to the convention because probably both of you have business or some sort of, purpose in the convention as well. Um, but it can be things like let's go grab a drink, let's have lunch, depending on your familiarity with the person. Even just like let's, you know, meet up at this like park bench kind of a thing so we can just talk where it's
Right.
not super loud. Um,
And I will say, if you see, if you're a fan and you see a streamer, or if you see somebody having that kind of a meeting, um, I would stay away from them. That's not a time when you're supposed to come up and socialize and do that kind of thing. So,
mm-hmm.
for example, if I were to see Galen at a convention and he's off talking to, I don't know, Ninja. Oh wait, no, wrong platform. Tim the Tatman.
There you go.
Um, then
Yeah, not at
and then I'm
MixerCon.
like, oh, okay, now yeah, MixerCon's not a thing yet. So Galen's in the middle of business. I'll see him on the floor. If so you see somebody walking around the floor, that's generally a sign that they're okay to be approached.
Yeah, and they
Um,
they may be marching somewhere, and so if they say, "Hey, sorry, I'm running to a meeting, gotta go," don't take offense at
yeah,
that. But generally, I would agree. If they're walking the floor, they're more available than not.
right, exactly. And so, but if you see them off the convention floor, maybe they're okay being approached, but assume that they're not until you see evidence otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, if you randomly see, Ben and Sam Lupo on a park bench and they're just having a moment away from everyone else, don't be like me and walk up and say hello. I did that once; it was fine, but in hindsight, it was a bad idea. Um, they forgave me eventually, and so but when you're having these offsite meetings, just be very aware and cognizant of other people's time and why they're there.
And if I'm walking by and I see a friend having a meeting like that, I might wave as I walk by, just a casual greeting. And
Yeah,
if they see me, great, they'll probably wave back, and it won't really interrupt them. And if not, then that's fine, right? Because they get to
that's
continue
right.
on with their meeting. But
If
so
you get that, like if I, for example, if I'm having that meeting and you wave at me, I will either go like that or I'll say, hey, come over. You need to meet this person.
right.
But in general, you should only do that with people you already know.
Would it be sorry? I just thought this. Would it be nice or odd after a cold meeting to ask if they need anything? I mean, what do you mean by need anything? Right? That's a very open question. Um,
So aggro, I understand the sentiment there. It really depends. Yeah, exactly. That kind of like if you're asking, hey, can I get you a cup of
if you're
coffee right now?
asking
Are
an
you
open
tired?
question, you're putting pressure on someone else to come up with an answer without much direction.
Right. That
Do you
said,
need a
if
soda? Like Rini said, that's a very specific
right,
yes no.
if you've got a friend who's been on the floor for hours, that's wonderful.
Right.
If you like see a streamer at a meet and greet and you don't know them and you say, hey, can I get you a soda?
They should say no, first of all. They shouldn't be taking food from strangers.
Yeah, don't give food to strangers, even if you love them and you have seen them on stream, they don't really know you that well. You're a member of their community and they love you for that. Just do not take food from strangers. Do not give food to strangers.
And do not be offended if someone, even if you put a lot of effort into making something, like that's just so dangerous.
Yeah.
So you do want to make sure too, like when you're asking those kinds of things, that it's something, you know, innocuous, helpful, and directed. Again, in mind that keeping in mind that yeah, I guess I said food, but drink would also be included. Keeping in mind that these are people who are probably doing a ton over the course of this convention, are probably tired, are probably busy, right?
Yeah.
So having them spend extra brain power to figure out an open-ended question is asking more than they might be able to provide in that moment, even if it's super well intentioned and you're trying to help and all of those kinds of things. I would say usually try and follow up later as opposed to
Right.
trying to make something specific happen there.
Right.
Yep.
So now we've talked about on-floor meetings and off-floor meetings. Let's talk about parties. So
They're fun.
in the course of your time going to cons, there's a lot of open parties. There's a lot of exclusive parties. There's a lot of opportunities to go out and socialize.
Mm-hmm.
If you are there for work, it is fine to. And this is personal motto. If you are there for work, it is fine to have a drink and then get work done. If you're there to network, it's fine to have a few drinks if that's what you do. If you get sloshed, be prepared to either make a bad impression as the one who was sloshed at the Layers of Fear party, or that's not me, that was somebody else, or to completely forget who you met, why you have their business cards, and be completely unable to follow up. And
I say
so
I wasn't
my
sloshed at that party. I don't think.
no, you weren't. You were sloshed at a different party.
Yeah,
Um,
yours. It was great.
it was.
You
It
were the ones
was.
buying me scotch. That was wonderful.
It was wonderful. And I bought me scotch too. But so it's okay to get sloshed when you're surrounded by friends and you're not
I was
going to
gonna
be
say,
seeing
Wes.
anybody
Yeah,
else.
you were in the surrounded by friends category. You guys at the Catalyst Mod House, as far as I could tell, were just drinking constantly. But that's a different thing than a party thrown by like a
Yeah.
dev or something
So,
like
for
that.
example, if you're in the Twitch partner party and one of your, they have free drinks and one of your friends keeps
All on the
coming up and,
table, open, uncovered.
yeah, well, that's not going to happen again. You know that. But say you're at the Twitch partner party at PAX East 2017 and you're at the partner party and one of your friends keeps coming up and putting a Red Bull vodka in your hand. And you're just like, this is amazing. This is wonderful. You just keep drinking and keep drinking and keep drinking. You could literally
Oh,
die in the
yes,
blizzard that follows. And
yes,
I'm not calling out Taffy. I mean anybody.
yeah. I know. I would
But
say, Taffy, are you going to East? Because it's a prime opportunity, end of February, to die in a blizzard while
yeah, I
stumbling home from
literally
a
saved
party.
Taffy's life from a blizzard. But so that is to say, when I go to conventions, I will get a single drink and I will nurse it. And I will nurse it until I'm basically done working. And then at that point, I'm fine having a couple more drinks, but never
Yeah,
too many.
and it depends on how many events you're going to in the night, and it depends. Sorry, I just saw a
Yeah,
tap. It depends how many.
yeah, I did.
Oh, that's amazing. It depends how many events you're going to. It depends, if you've eaten. Depends on how accustomed you are to drinking. It depends on how big you are, right? Like you got
It
to know
doesn't
your
matter.
factors. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
having a couple drinks if you're someone who that won't be a big impact. And by the way, you just ate like a steak or something.
right, exactly. And so,
But you don't want
um,
to leave a bad impression. You
that's
might,
that.
it might help you be more sociable, which helps you make a good impression, but walk the line.
Yeah, and you never want to like get into the point where you're so sloshed you're just gonna walk out of the party, throw your business cards in the air and yell business cards, and that's your
Mm-hmm.
networking. I'm
Yeah,
also not
those
saying
don't work.
Taffy did that as well. So I could just stay up here and talk
Is that
about
what this
Taffy
show
all.
is now? That sounds fun.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's his story. I'll let him tell it someday. But anyway, so I always have a single drink, and if you're uncomfortable, if you feel a lot of social pressure, um, and if you feel a lot of social pressure to drink when you're around people, the best thing you can do is switch to vodka tonics, and then when you're ready to not drink anymore, just drink a tonic because it looks exactly like a vodka tonic.
Yep. And
So
I mean, in general, people won't judge you if you're like, yeah, I've had enough, and I'm just gonna grab something else, right? Like you're usually pretty good. Now that's different. Maybe the last night of a convention, if you're just doing a thing with friends, or you don't have anything to do the next day, like sure, you are allowed to grab a drink. I'm not saying be puritanical or anything like that, but like if you're being plied with free drinks, that can make things go off the rails,
yeah.
right?
Now, when you're going around at parties, if you see somebody that's clearly just there to have a good time and you corner them and talk business, that's a huge faux pas.
Yes, that's another thing too. Very good point. Like party people are at these parties sure to meet and maybe do some level of business. I have a client now who I got introduced to at a party at TwitchCon where we briefly like friended intro, here's what you guys do, here's why you should talk to each other. Great, sounds good. Can I follow up with you? We reached out late. I reached out later to follow up, especially because for us we're talking about like money and legal stuff. You don't want to be like,
Right.
so I heard you made $100,000 last year.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing is I never drink in legal. I will literally, at TwitchCon, I was at a party and somebody walked up to me and said, so how do you feel about the COPPA stuff on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube? And I said, I don't have any feelings about it right now. You ask me tomorrow when I haven't had two scotches and I'll have feelings, but I'm not going to give legal advice after I've been drinking ever, ever. So my job is not worth impressing
Yeah,
you at a party.
yeah, that's for sure.
So,
But they're
so
good. They're good opportunities to make
right.
friends and connections in the industry, and they're a good place to make a much just. They're a good place to make introductions that you can maybe later follow up on. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, but it's definitely unless you guys agreed to it ahead of time, it's usually not a good place to conduct business beyond initial introduction, make a good impression kind of a thing.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
Um, all right. And so, what are the topics? Do you want? We got about 5 minutes left. Do you want to take questions? We have one question we saved. Um,
Oh yeah. And we
the
didn't
real
talk
quick.
about intros, I guess, but yeah.
Well, we kind of did.
Yeah.
So
Make
also,
intros. If you this is one thing I'll say. If you're talking with someone and they do something cool and you think that a friend would love, or something like that, would love to know who it is that they, or know who they are, what they do, that kind of a thing, make the intro. Hey,
yeah,
you should meet this person. Just do a quick introduction, have them talk, something like that, even so that they can follow up later. So much stuff professionally in any business, but especially this one, happens because of introductions that a friend made. Like I said, that Kevin
yeah.
Bacon effect.
I
Don't
will
be
tell
afraid to
you.
ask for intros either.
No.
Hey,
So
so go
to
on.
that effect, one of my friends, Dan, was throwing the Adult Swim party at PAX
Mm-hmm.
East a couple years ago, and he
Last year.
walked up. Yeah. Oh God, that was last year.
Mm-hmm.
He walked up to me and said, "Hey, do you know Gassy Mexican?" Because Gassy Mexican was there, and I said, "I have never met the gentleman in my life." Um, and he
I say
said,
it's me after
"Okay,
a family dinner.
yeah, exactly." And he said, "Well, can you introduce me to him?" And I said, "Sure, sounds good." And clearly, he had not heard what I had previously said. So I walked up and tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, my name's Noah. I'm a lawyer. This is Dan. He threw this party. Pleasure to meet each other. Now we all know each other."
And that
So
context is important. Not just hey, this is Dan. Hey, this is X. Dot dot dot. Reason. You two should talk. So like, I write a
yeah,
lot of introductory emails to other professionals, to other streamers, that kind
mm-hmm.
of stuff. And literally, I use the same format for all of my introductory emails. I try and use this format when I'm doing in-person verbal introductions, but it's literally, you know, Noah meet Dan, Dan meet Noah. Noah,
Right.
Dan is XYZ and does this interesting thing. Dan, Noah is XYZ, does this interesting thing. You guys should talk. Like, give people the context to talk so you don't just be like, you two should meet. And
You can
now Kith.
exactly. And now kid, that's horrible. And so, but you also see situations where having a partner like you and I are going to walk around PAX East together,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to know people that I want to meet, and I'm going to know people that you want to meet, and that's the best way for me to remember somebody's name if I should know it, is
Yes,
to
is to do
introduce
an
you to
introduction.
them.
Oh yeah, that's a great trick, by the way. If you don't know someone's name who's talking to you, but you know you should, turn to your friend who you're with and be like, by the way, this is Noah. And then Noah goes, hi. And the person goes, hi, I'm Dan, right? Like by
Yeah,
instinct. And then
exactly.
you're like, got it. Okay, we're
It's
good. It's a
magical,
great trick.
but also introducing people, it will give you a reason to talk to somebody, and if
Yeah.
you have somebody else with you there, you don't feel as bad about taking a little bit more of their time. So
Yeah. The only time it's been even kind of awkward is when I introduced a friend to someone else and they were both short girls and then we were at a party and then I felt I was doing the Pokemon trainer thing with like squatting down, hands on knees to hear what
oh
we
no.
were talking about. I felt that one felt dumb. But besides that, it's usually pretty good.
Yeah. So
Um so
so we
the
got one
yeah.
question that's important, and you're the finance guy, so I'll let you tackle it, but I'm going to put you on a timer.
Okay. So the question was, are you going to explain how and if you can make cons business expense? Yes.
Their business expense.
Was there a
If you're
follow
there
up?
for
Wait,
work.
well, there wasn't the follow up question of are they? It was just are you going to explain it? Yeah.
Oh gosh, come on, man.
I'm a dad now. I get to do these things.
No, you don't.
So if you have a business that is related to the convention that you're going to, yes, conventions are a business expense. Business meals you only get to write off 50% of, but I went to PAX South last month and I wrote off my plane, the park, not my plane, my plane travel. I don't have a plane. Parking at the airport, meal I had on the way there, all the meals I had there, drinks that I bought for myself and for other people, the actual ticket to go, my hotel room, my lifts that I took to and from a bunch of different places. I didn't get anything like swag wise this time, but if I bought something, like where'd he go? Here we go. Boom. I got this at PAX West a couple years. Oh wait,
Yeah.
you can't see him. Yeah, no, you can't. Okay, I wrote him off because he is office decoration. Hi,
Oh,
Lumpus.
I could do that.
So yes, if it is connected to a legitimate business reason for being there, so not I like this streamer and somehow that's business. But for me, I am a financial planner who works with streamers, and I'm going to a place where there are a lot of streamers. That is a business expense.
Yeah, and for me, my favorite swag that I got that wasn't a business expense, it was free, but
Writing off laundry? Oh, for sure. For sure, Rini. Oh, I've got a duck button somewhere. I think it's in my
yeah.
room.
But yeah, no, and like, so for example, if you have a company and you take a few of your clients out, as long as you're not spending oodles of money on it, it could be a marketing expense, that kind of thing too.
As long as, I mean, as long as your, compliance officer is signing off on it, you can. And for me, since I'm a one-man firm, I just sign off on it.
Exactly.
I ask
So,
myself, can I write off buying this drink for this client? And I say yes. And then I
oh, I
buy them
should
the
keep that in
drink.
mind.
It's one of the
Thanks,
joys of self-employment.
because I'm your client now. So,
I write off.
thank you.
I write off literally anything I'm doing at a conference, unless it truly is like a personal side trip that I'm taking.
Yeah. So I think that's our time. We should take.
Yep.
We can take a couple of questions if anybody has anything in chat.
That was my slack. Sorry.
Get wrecked. Going once. We've been really good about answering questions, I think.
I think so.
Twice.
Sold.
3 times. All right, sweet. So you want to take us out?
Can you
Oh,
write
can
off
you write
pet
off
care?
pet care?
Good question, Vanna.
Hey, it's Vanna. How you
That
doing, Vanna?
is one. No, basically. And that's so. Here's what I'll say. Messing up your own emotes. Nice. So I would generally say no, because even though there's a business reason that you're not there to care for your pets, the fact that you have a pet isn't a business thing, right?
Unless it is.
I mean, there are some people for whom it is, but that's a super, super limit. If you had, what was it, Little Bubs or whatever, the cat that had the like really cute, messed up face, you can't. Just like I couldn't write off childcare if I were, gone and my wife wasn't around to
That
watch her
said,
daughter.
each person's specific case might be different. So
Yes, there are
check in your particular case.
there are definitely limited exceptions to that, but I would say in general, no, you can't write off the portion of your rent that you didn't use because you weren't at home, right? Grid, what about vlogging at events? What about what is the rest
Don't
of
do
the
it in the
content?
bathroom.
What are you asking about when it comes to vlogging?
Yeah, make sure that you have. Exactly what Rainey said. Make sure you have permission to film.
Oh, okay. If it's that,
Um,
yeah.
Don't be that guy and do like try and get reactions and stuff like that, and make sure. Don't put a support vest on pets and take them. Jiminy Christmas. Okay. Anyways, so I think that's it. So guys, I think that is the end here. We're wrapping up. If you have any further questions, where can they find you, Galen?
Primarily Twitter. That's where I am a lot. But I run a firm called Buff Your Finances. You're about to hear more Slack pings from my wife, by the way, but because I can see Katie is typing. I run a financial planning firm called Buff Your Finances. My name is Galen Herbst Cortina. You can see it spelled here. If you can Google that, if you can just type that in accurately, you will find me. There is no one else that I am aware of with that name.
I know at least one more person.
You know at least one person with the name Galen Herbst Cortina?
Yeah, I'm also lying.
Yeah, I was going to say. And I am a human. The seeing numbers go up thing makes me feel good. So yeah, follow me on Twitter.
Sounds good. And my name's Noah Downs. I'm a lawyer, cool lawyer. You can find me on Twitter at my lawyer friend. You can also email me noah@morrisonrothman.com or work at the law firm of Morrison Rothman. So they're incredible folks. So you can also follow me on Twitch. I'll be streaming coming up here soon for St. Jude
Nice.
at twitch.tv/mylawyer-friend. You guys are all incredible folks. Galen, do you want to say goodbye for us?
Yes. So in terms of sort of housekeeping, follow-up-y kind of stuff, our next show is probably not until March 9th because we're going to take a little bit of time to plan out our content schedule, which is a good thing to do when you are creating content. And then we will be at PAX East. So the
That's before actually.
What? Yeah, no. I mean, we're taking time to plan content, and then the next time we would be doing a show will be at PAX East, so it probably won't be until the one after that. But we will put out news about whatever the next show is once we put together that content schedule. And until then, there should be a VOD of this on YouTube. And we appreciate you guys watching. Have a good day.
And if you want to meet with either of us, we're at PAX East. So
That's a good
email
point.
and set up a meeting.
That's a really good point. All right. Bye.
Bye, everybody.